Hello, Mr. Dunbar's class of 2023. I will be talking to you about Canada's peacekeeping in Cyprus. Before we begin, one thing to note the issue with Cyprus was the Greek Kautrits and the Turkish Kautrits were infighting and trying to see who could take command and lead the country. This right here is a peacekeeping vehicle used by Canada in conjugation with the UN in Cyprus as they were trying to take it back and trying to stabilize it during the Turkish invasion. It was a very light armored, very effective craft in the field. You will not see this on the battlefields, but mainly roaming about as more of a scout and recon vehicle. As seen right here, these are the vehicles that would mainly be used in Cyprus, more of the heavily armored civilian transport or supply givers. You would send these into the very urban, tight, ambush ready places, and hopefully they're heavily armored enough and small enough to not, fall in a ditch, holes, whatnot during this whole problem in Cyprus. This right here is a map of where the United Nations force would originate from Canada, as 25,000 men. Well, that's going to be quite a large area in Canada. So this is a record of where each of them came, how many from each place, what's the most important, like, oh, Ottawa, for instance. Oh, that's where most of these people came from, or not as much. As with any conflict, there is bound to be some soldiers who will take things from them, a souvenir if you will. This right here is basically a shell that was taken from Cyprus as a bit of a souvenir to, I don't know, do whatever. Donate to a museum, keep it around saying, hey, I found Cyprus, here's my proof, here's a shell I have. Now, as I'm sure all of you can read this, but I will do that for you just so you can listen. Conflict at the airport. Both Greek and Turkish forces wanted to capture Nicosia's international airport in order to land troop reinforcements on Cyprus. On the 23rd of July, Canadian soldiers, acting on the authority of the UN, took over the airport to prevent its use by combatants. During a tense standoff with the Turkish forces, Canadians prepared with meager resources to defend UN control of the airport if attacked. Now, during a conflict, airports are the most vital tool, as you can easily land any troop, vehicle, supplies, no matter what, from any source in the world, as this world is very interconnected. You know this. You can go to your airport and fly off. The UN is trying to prevent this conflict from escalating even further, so by blocking off a port of some kind to vent resources in, you're going to starve the conflict out. As with any conflict, there is bound to be casualties. The most important one, in my opinion, is Private Jean-Claude Berger. Yes, I believe I'm saying that correctly. His last name is Burger, like the food, but with an E. Well, he was killed, unfortunately, on the 9th of September, and 2 weeks after hostilities on Cyprus had ended, and he was shot in the back of the head by Greek forces who were driving a supply truck. How does that happen where you're killed 2 weeks after it's done? But anyways, he was killed, and it's just one of the main reasons we now have certain laws to prevent this sort of thing of, oh, hostilities are done, opening fire or hurting others. Private Berger's death was so impactful that the 1st Commando dedicated the Canadian outpost outside of Lupingeria, southwest of Nicosia, where that airport was located, to Private Jean-Claude Berger's memory. So, maybe you could go visit if you want. Thankfully, with this conflict, we had one man, Robert Shipley, to draw all of these fantastical images or representations of what everything looked like during, the conflict. As cameras back then as you know, were big, clunky, not really put into battle, and it's still impressive to me that one man would take his time out to sketch every single outpost that was important or every single location in Cyprus during this conflict. We are truly thankful for Robert Shipley's help. Even during the crisis, many soldiers found ways to keep themselves entertained and had some sort of fun in their lives. As you can see here, this Canadian soldier is running an obstacle course during a sports day in Cyprus, trying to keep himself in a physical shape while also boosting morale as, hey, there's something fun you can do while here in this horrible situation. Now, one of the very big problems in Cyprus were things known as car bombs, which is where you would put some sort of bomb like a grenade, C4, thermite, I don't know, some form of explosive material into the engine of your car. Possibly this would be done by either the Greeks or Turkish people, and hopefully they would kill you so they wouldn't have to deal with you anymore. Unfortunately, it was only the high-ranking people who dealt with this. As I'm not sure about you, but the phrase cut off the head of the snake really comes to light here as, oh, we killed the high guy, we won't have to deal with him anymore. So that was definitely a problem during this time, as we couldn't have people be putting bombs in our cars and hopefully killing them. Well, for the enemy it was hopeful, everyone else was kind of like, no, stop. So that was one big thing you had to look out for. Very hard to identify. Regular engine checks were such a big thing. You couldn't even go like 2 feet without someone asking you, hey, did you check under your hood at least? Now, before the UN started wearing traditional helmets that were used by normally any military in the world, spherical, goes on top of your head normally, they used to wear these blue berets, which is where the phrase or the term, more like the blue berets, referring to the UN, came from, as you would usually see these soldiers wearing these blue berets on top of their heads instead of helmets. Though I'm pretty sure after likely a lot of sniper shots shot at them, they switched over to more traditional helmets to avoid that sort of incident from happening again. Well, as normal as blue helmets are, though the term the blue berets still applies even now, as that's what the UN was mostly known for back in the day, normally during these type of peacekeeping events. One last thing before I leave you, this is what a traditional lookout outpost would be. They would usually have one soldier as a lookout and some others kind of milling about. This would be like a checkpoint or a lookout tower set on top of like a high building on the roof or side of the road. They would also be equipped with radar sensors, as shown here, to make sure that, hey, no one's coming in or out here. We're making sure of that, and making sure no aircraft are coming in to attack us.